Hello friends, my name is Udo Sendai-Dukai, and in this video you'll learn what spectral or spectral tool means and what its counterpart actually is. If you like my videos and find them useful, please give them a thumbs up, comment and subscribe. You can also support me via YouTube or buy me a coffee. All informations and further links are in the video description, but let's get started. When it comes to spectral plugins and devices, it's often said that the sound is no longer viewed in the time domain, but in the frequency domain. What does that mean? It's actually quite simple if you know which tools, apart from the special spectral editors and effects, are spectral tools and which aren't. The two most well-known tools are, for the time domain, the oscilloscope, which displays time on the x-axis and amplitude on the y-axis. And for the frequency domain, the spectral view, the spectrum, which displays the frequency spectrum from hertz to kilohertz on the x-axis and the signal strength on the y-axis upwards. And that's basically all that can be said about the difference between the time and the frequency domains. But let's not stop there and take a closer look to gain a deeper understanding. What exactly do the different representations show? In the time domain, the development of a signal is displayed for a specified, clearly defined period of time. The result is a waveform on the x and y-axis. The x-axis represents the time unit in milliseconds, seconds, minutes and so on. And the y-axis represents the amplitude. That is the strength of the signal, or simply put, the volume. And this already makes one important use obvious. The oscilloscope displays the signal or the volume development over a certain period of time. The representation of samples and audio tracks as waveforms is probably the most well-known form. In addition, even more properties can be viewed or guessed in this display, such as the dynamics, the crest factor, the ratio between peaks and body of a signal, the loudness, or whether signals are clipping. Somewhat more difficult, but still guessable when the time unit is taken into account, frequencies or pitches are also visible. A long wave over a long period of time is a low frequency. And many waves over the same period of time are higher frequencies. Signal problems such as DC offset, which causes the signal to oscillate asymmetrically. For example, it has more signal components in the positive range than in the negative range, are also visible this way. And there's certainly a lot more information that can be read from it. Maybe you know something else? Then please let me know in the comments. Classic dynamic tools include volume controls, such as track faders, gain, drive, attenuation, feedback devices, compressors, clippers, limiters, transient shapers, de-essers, and so on. And that brings us to the frequency domain, the counterpart to the time domain. The frequency domain, as the name suggests, is about frequencies. A signal is broken down into individual smaller frequency bands. This can range from a few and therefore very rough divisions to many and therefore very detailed divisions. The decomposition of the signal into such smaller parts is called fast Fourier transformation, abbreviated FFT. You've probably heard or read this many times. It's a mathematical formula that can be used to break down a complex signal into numerous sine waves. These, when combined again, create the original complex signal. Sine waves because this is the most fundamental oscillation, and any imaginable signal can be created by combining sine waves. It's like mixing colors. Green is broken down or transformed into individual colors blue and yellow. And when put together again, blue and yellow make green. There will be no more math and color theory today. The official definition, by the way, is with a fast Fourier transformation, a time-discrete signal can be decomposed into its frequency components and thus analyzed. Or the other way around, all signals are the sum of sine waves. For FFT, the fast Fourier transformation, there are usually specifications like 1024, 2048, 4096, 8192, and so on. This is a division of the entire frequency spectrum into many frequency bands. The higher the number, the more subdivisions into frequency bands, the more detail is displayed. Like a cream cake being cut into 4 big or 16 fine slices, or into 8192 wafer-thin slices, in other words, a typical cream cake carpaccio. If this level of detail were set to extremely high, all individual sine waves could be determined in the end. However, this takes a lot of computing power and is not necessary in most cases. Now a little nerd knowledge on the side. Each individual part of these 1024, 2048 and so on divisions is called windows or bins. Since these are essentially isolated frequency components of an entire frequency spectrum, these individual isolated windows must have transitions to each other. In very simple words, these are called crossfades. These are algorithms that try to make this as unobtrusive as possible. There are several that have their advantages and disadvantages. You may have read about them here and there. They include names like Blackman-Harris, Hamming, Hahn, Kaiser-Bessel, Flattop, and other terms. I think this is a small piece of knowledge that contributes a lot to understanding without requiring you to understand it in depth. When it comes to display, there's the familiar spectrum, which is also used in many parametric EQs. Some display it as a wave-like curve from 20 Hz to 20 kHz, and other look like a bar charts for the individual bands. Specialized spectral editors often use a sonogram, sometimes called a sonogram, which shows the elapsed time on the x-axis, the frequencies on the y-axis, and a third value often represented as brightness or color. The darker or more intense the color, the stronger the amplitude, and therefore the louder this frequency. And of course, there are other display types, such as true 3D displays, as shown here as a graphic plugin for the Audacious music player or the OpenGL Spectrum Analyzer. What a name. And here too, the intent use is fairly quickly apparent. It involves observing frequencies in isolation in order to manipulate them. And if you're now thinking, hey, classic filters or EQs with low pass, high pass, bell, notch and peak filters are also spectral tools because they focus on very specific frequency bands. A very good point, and the truth lies in both worlds. There are classic filters that use FIR, finite impulse responses for linear phase EQs, and IIR, infinite impulse responses for standard minimum phase EQs from the time domain that work with delays. And there are also spectral filters or spectral EQs. But that's a topic for a whole other video. So classic tools include the spectral editor in Audacity or its successor Tenacity, the Cubase spectral layers, Ableton spectral time or spectral resonator, or in Bitwig Studio spectral tools such as frequency split, loud split, harmonic split, or transient split. So, I hope I was able to explain the difference clearly to you so that you now have a clear idea of what in the time domain means, for example with an oscilloscope, and the frequency domain, for example with a spectrum. That the FFT or the fast Fourier transformation breaks a sound down into its individual components, and that there are tools here and there that exist in both worlds. If I've forgotten something important, you'd like to add something, please let me know in the comments. Thank you for your time and attention, and I hope to see you soon and again in the next video. Stay healthy and save the future. Take care. See you then. Ciao, ciao.